Discovering Iran's incredible biblical destiny, shocking truths revealed in Scripture. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar seized Jerusalem and sent his captives to distant lands, including a young orphan named Esther. She was raised by her cousin Mordecai in Susa, the capital of the vast Persian Empire. The vibrant city, filled with towering palaces and bustling streets, enveloped Esther in both its splendor and danger. As a Jewish girl, she bore the constant weight of hiding her identity amidst the foreign court's intrigue. Her heart called out to Yahweh, the God of her ancestors, seeking solace in prayers whispered under the shadows of her chamber. As the days passed, the news of Queen Vashti's defiance traveled like wildfire. The once proud queen had stood firm against the king's command and was banished from his presence. With her departure opened a great opportunity to find a new queen, and soon a search commenced among the most beautiful maidens in the land. Little did Esther know that this selection was not mere coincidence, but a pivotal moment in God's unfolding plan. Gathered with numerous young women, Esther donned the garments of beauty-ornate fabrics that shimmered like the sun, but her heart yearned for the simplicity of her heritage. Though the palace had become her new home, the tales of her forefathers haunted her thoughts. She recalled the courage of Daniel, who stood firm amidst lions, and Nehemiah, who with determination and prayer, had risen to restore Jerusalem's walls. Each night became a time for reflection and supplication, urging her faith to buoy her spirit, for she was aware that Yahweh's providence shaped the world around her. With grace and composure, Esther captured the favor of all those around her. Yet, as she settled into her royal role, darkness began to loom. Haman, the king's newly appointed advisor, began to weave his web of deceit, fueled by unyielding hatred toward the Jews. Under the pretense of loyalty to the king, he conjured a decree for the extermination of her people, unaware that the queen he served belonged to those he sought to destroy. The news of this edict spread fear among the Jewish community, igniting despair that pierced Esther's heart. Mordecai's anguished cries reached her ears, filled with urgency. Do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, he implored, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther 4 verses 13-14, ESV. His words ignited a spark of resolve within her. Caught in the tension of her dual existence, Esther wrestled with the choices laid before her. To stand against the king without a summons could mean her end. Yet, as the echoes of her heritage reverberated through her thoughts, the stories of deliverance, the weight of her people pressed heavily upon her soul. Would she cling to her newfound title, or would she stand boldly with her kin? Finally, gathering her courage, Esther declared, "If I perish, I perish." Esther 4 verse 16, ESV. She adorned herself in royal attire, her heart steadying with the strength of her ancestors' faith guiding her. As she approached the king's throne, she felt the gravity of the moment encroach upon her. Time stood still, as the air around her became thick with divine purpose, the remnants of her people's cries echoing in her heart. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Esther stepped into the inner court, she grasped the heaviness of her destiny. Would she find favor in the eyes of the king? In the rich tapestries of God's divine tapestry, the cries of her people beckoned her to trust in the hidden hands of providence. The sacred narrative continued, weaving its intricate threads, leaving us to ponder the implications of Esther's next steps and the mystery of divine deliverance for his beloved. As Esther approached the throne, her heart raced like the pounding of a drum, each beat echoing with the weight of her people's plight. The king, seated upon his imposing throne, surveyed the grandeur of his court. His eyes, striking yet enigmatic, fell upon the queen standing before him, resplendent and trembling. A breathless silence enveloped the gathering, punctuated only by the soft rustle of silks and whispers of anticipation. "Queen Esther," the king's voice boomed with authority, "what is your request?" "It shall be given you, even to the half of my kingdom." His words, a promise of favor, stoked the embers of hope within her heart, yet the shadow of despair lingered. How could she unveil the truth of her identity, the peril of her kin, in such a fleeting moment? Wisdom whispered in her spirit, urging her to tread carefully. Esther responded not with her burdened heart but with grace. "If it please the king, let the king and Haman come today to a feast that I have prepared for him." Esther 5 verse 4, ESV. In this delicate invitation lay her strategy. She would reveal her truth in layers, weaving a tapestry of intrigue that would draw the king's curiosity. The king, pleased by her request, summoned Haman. Together they dined in the fragrant halls, adorned with gold and ivory, laughter cascading like the finest wine. But in the midst of the revelry, Esther's mind was a storm, swirling with the gravity of her hidden identity. The oppressive decree loomed over her people, and each banquet dish served became a reminder of the urgency of her mission. As the feast reached its zenith, the king turned to Esther once more. "What is your wish?" he pressed eagerly. With fervor, Esther took a deep breath, mustering all the courage she had. "If I have found favor in your sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be granted me for my wish, and my people for my request. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be killed, and to be annihilated." Esther 7 verses 3-4, ESV. A stunned silence engulfed the room, the laughter faded like mist before the dawn sun. The king's brow furrowed in disbelief, confusion clouding his regal features. "Who is he, and where is he who has dared to do this?" he demanded, fury igniting in his voice. "Haman, this wicked adversary," Esther declared with unwavering resolve, her voice a clarion call for justice. Haman, her nemesis concealed in finery, stood exposed, the weight of his scheming heavy upon his shoulders. The king's anger ignited a chain of events that would irrevocably alter the fate of the Jewish people. Haman's wicked plot was laid bare, the truth unfurling like the banners of victory. In a moment of divine justice, the king ordered Haman to be led away, shamed and conquered. The panic of the people gave way to hope as word spread throughout the kingdom. Yet, deep within the chambers of Esther's heart lingered a question of commitment to God's sovereignty. Would there be sufficient time for the edict to be overturned? Could her courage transform into deliverance amidst a kingdom bound by injustice? Even as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows of fear and uncertainty, light began to pierce the dark clouds of despair. Into this tumultuous moment, God's sovereign hand was revealed, bathed in the promise of protection and deliverance. For Esther, the ultimate purpose loomed, much larger than her own fate. It was a divine declaration of a people called to be a light before the nations. And yet, in the depths of this unfolding saga remained an unanswered mystery. As God's plan wove through the fabric of lives and destinies, what further twist awaited in the shadowy corners of Susa? Thus the tapestry of God's design continued to unfurl, waiting for its next revelation. As the tumult settled in the palace, the king's fury was palpable. He commanded his trusted guards, "Take this man, Haman, and hang him on the gallows that he has prepared for Mordecai." Esther 7 verse 9, ESV. The decree issued from the throne thundered through the halls, reverberating with the weight of divine retribution. Thus, Haman's scheming met its end, swinging from the gallows, a grim testament to the ancient saying, "Those who dig a pit will fall into it." Esther stood resolute, yet the weight of her burden pressed upon her heart. The decree to annihilate her people still lingered in the air, an unsolved mystery crying out for resolution. She had unmasked Haman's treachery, but the edict recorded in the king's name could not be undone, and her heart yearned for her people. With renewed determination, Esther approached the king once more, her spirit ignited by a fervent plea. "If it pleases my lord," she implored, "let an edict be written to counteract the one that has been sealed in your name for our destruction. For how can I bear to see the calamity that will befall my people? How can I endure the annihilation of my kin?" Esther 8 verse 5, ESV. The king, still sitting in the shadow of his anger against Haman, turned his gaze upon Esther. Compassion flickered in his eyes, melted by her genuine anguish and bravery. "I shall give you my signet ring," he replied. "The decree shall be as you have requested." The king's words fell like rain upon the parched earth of Esther's hopes, yet the path was fraught with peril. A new edict must swiftly be crafted, for the hearts of the people were in turmoil. Thus began the work of delivering a counter-decree. Mordecai rose, adorned in the king's own robes, the symbols of honor bestowed upon him. He strode into the marketplace, urgency marked upon his brow. "Jews, gather and take heart," he cried. "For the king has taken a stand for us. Where our enemies sought to destroy, we shall now stand firm. We are called to rise in the face of adversity." Esther 8 verse 10. From throughout the city, the people responded, astounded at the turn of events. The decree resonated with hope, igniting the hearts of every Jew. They gathered together, united under a common banner, fervent prayers rising like fragrant incense to heaven. As the days passed, whispers of unrest began to ripple through the kingdom. The fear of the Jews was placed upon their enemies, and divine favor clung to the air. Not only were they to defend themselves, but they were emboldened to strike back against those who would bring evil upon them. On the 13th day of the month, the eve of their intended destruction, the power of God manifested amidst the chaos. As Mordecai and Esther stood united, the ground shook with the fervor of divine intent, writing their fate into the book of remembrance. The cries of desperation turned into shouts of triumph. The Lord was in their midst, breathing life into the once withering hope, and as the first light of dawn broke upon their fateful day, Esther's heart soared amidst the uncertainty, for she sensed that the tapestry of God's divine plan was still unfolding. Through justice and mercy, this was but a chapter in a much larger story, a story of covenant promise, protection, and relentless love. But hidden in the depths of this victory remained a question, echoing softly against the stones of the palace. What would become of the Jewish people, now that their fate had shifted? As hearts beat with renewed faith, one truth lingered: God's sovereign design was far from complete. What lay ahead was a destiny interwoven with divine purpose waiting to be revealed. How would the story echo through generations to come? As the sun rose on the 13th day of Adar, the air was thick with anticipation. The people of Judah, stirred to action, gathered in the streets, their hearts aflame with a newfound boldness. They looked toward the citadel, where Mordecai had issued the king's decree. Their spirits intertwined with hope. The moment of reckoning had come. In the palace, Esther prepared her heart for the unfolding day, her thoughts mingling with prayers for her people. She knew well the weight of the edict, that it would go forth with a full measure of resolve. She sought the Lord, whispering fervent petitions: "O God, may your hand guide our hearts in unity. In the face of despair, grant us courage to stand." Mordecai dispatched messengers bearing the weighty news of the decree to every province within the kingdom, declaring, "On this day, you are to defend your people. Should any rise against you, you shall strike down those who seek to harm." As all Israel trembled prior to the decree, the shouts of the Judaic heart now rang out with certainty. Fear had turned into a battle cry, and lo, as the trumpet sounded through the city, they were not alone. God's presence enveloped them, invigorating their souls. The very stones of the streets seemed alive, echoing their fervor as they rallied together. For such a time as this, Mordecai proclaimed, "God has placed us. We shall not fear, we are the chosen of the Most High." Meanwhile, in the hearts of their enemies, trepidation swelled. The news of the Jews' newfound authority coursed through the kingdom like wildfire, striking terror into the hearts of those who had conspired against them. The wise men in the court began to murmur, for they recognized a shift, a stirring of divine favor. On that pivotal day, the clash of swords and shields filled the air as the Jews rose up against each adversary. Those who had once feasted on their fate found themselves entangled in a divine reversal. Long had they plotted against God's people, yet now they encountered the unyielding strength of those empowered by the Almighty. Esther stood at the forefront, a queen not only by royal decree but by divine appointment. As the scenes of struggle unfolded, her heart weighed for her people, resolutely believing the promise that had been bestowed upon them. In her gaze lay the hope of generations, an echo of the covenant made to Abraham, unwavering through the ages. Thus, the day echoed with victories and tribulations, and amidst the noise, the tables were turned. The remnants of Haman's wickedness were scattered far and wide, as the Jews rallied in joyous celebration, for God had turned their mourning into dancing. Psalm 30 verse 11. As the sun began to set, leaving a veil of twilight, the people gathered once more. They lifted their voices in gratitude, recognizing that they were not merely victors by man's hand but by the sovereign plan of God himself. They declared, "He has delivered us. For the Lord's faithfulness endures forever." Yet, little did they know, the unfolding of their destiny was far from sealed. As the high priest offered sacrifices of thanksgiving, the Lord impressed upon Esther's heart a truth greater than their current deliverance, a promise of redemption that would reverberate across time, from generation to generation. In that sacred moment, Esther was reminded of what was yet to come. For the story of Israel would not end here, rather, it was the beginning of a narrative woven into the very framework of God's everlasting love, whispers of redemption that would echo through the ages, leading to a hope far greater than their survival. But as they celebrated this remarkable victory, a question hung in the air like incense rising to heaven: what further wonders lay hidden in God's plan for his people? A divine purpose was still unfolding, and the heart of God was poised to reveal more than mere survival. He was leading them toward an even greater deliverance yet to be fully unveiled. On the morrow, the sun dawned upon a quieter, yet tense city of Susa. The echoes of battle had receded, but within the hearts of the people, a fervor remained ignited. There was celebration mixed with solemnity, for though victory was won, the cost weighed heavy upon their minds. Esther, draped in garments of royal splendor, stood among her people as they gathered in prayer and remembrance. Her spirit stirred, for she understood the deeper battle, the struggle for their very identity, rooted in the covenant of the Most High. Mordecai, now renowned among the people for his courage, emerged from the palace to address the gathering throng. The air buzzed with anticipation of his words, for they had witnessed the evidence of God's hand at work. "Beloved people of Judah," he proclaimed, his voice resonating with authority, "the Lord has fought for us today, yet the battle is not concluded. Though we may tread the path of deliverance, we must remain ever vigilant, for while Haman's plot has been thwarted, darkness still lingers in the hearts of those who oppose our God." As the murmurs of assent washed over the crowd, Esther's heart stirred again. Suddenly, she felt the gravity of her calling well up within her. "Mordecai," she spoke, her voice strong but tempered with compassion, "we must not let complacency take root among us. Let us not forget the promise our God gave to Abraham, that through his descendants, all the nations would be blessed." As she spoke, echoes of the word resounded within her. "For I know the plans I have for you, the Lord declares, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Her resolve solidified, for she sensed that deliverance was but a chapter in the greater story of redemption. Days passed, and the news of their triumph over their foes spread across the realm like wildfire, igniting joy and fear alike. In distant lands, whispers grew within the hearts of their enemies. Yet, in Judah, a new dawn of unity blossomed, as the faithful Jews gathered in synagogues, reading again the sacred scrolls, reaffirming their fate in the hands of the Eternal. But amidst their rejoicing, Esther felt a pressing weight on her soul. An urgency brewed within her spirit. Kneeling before the Lord, she sought wisdom, saying, "O God, reveal unto me the next steps of this journey. Do you not have greater plans for us? What shall we become, in the shadow of your power?" That night, as darkness cloaked the earth, a revelation graced her thoughts. A vivid dream unfolded. She beheld a multitude that transcended the boundaries of their nation, reaching to the ends of the earth. A promise of hope echoed from the corners of her mind, illuminating her heart with anticipation. This dream pierced through her conscious fears, unveiling the divine truth. God's sovereign plan extended beyond their immediate deliverance. With every victory, he was preparing them to be a light unto the nations, a herald of grace in a world steeped in darkness. Awakening from her slumber, her heart was resolute. The time had come for prayer to evolve into action. "We shall establish a day of remembrance," she declared to Mordecai and the elders. "A day to celebrate our deliverance, but also to reflect upon our calling to proclaim his glory to all peoples." As the council of elders gathered, they lifted their voices in agreement. What began in despair would bloom into a legacy of praise. Yet, as they prepared to write this decree, a shadow loomed, the implications of their victory stirring other hearts, those who were not yet ready to relent. In that moment of divine unfolding, a thought coursed through Esther: the heart of God's covenant was intertwined with his promise of redemption. Our deliverance is but the beginning, she mused, for even now, God weaves together a plan greater than we can fathom. What marvels still await us? And thus, as the quill touched the parchment, the covenant of remembrance began to ink the pages of their destiny. But as the people readied for their celebrations, they knew that God's mysteries loomed overhead, hidden yet unfolding, guiding their journey to a crescendo of hope. For indeed, the greatest deliverance was yet to be revealed. Then on the appointed day, the sun bathed the city of Susa in golden light, as Esther stood on a raised platform, addressing the gathered multitude with fervor. Her heart, ablaze with purpose, resonated with the weight of her ancestors' legacy. "People of Judah," she cried out, her voice lifting above the swell of expectation, "today we commemorate the deliverance our God has wrought for us. Let us remember that our story does not end here, for we are called to be a beacon of his faithfulness to the nations." As she spoke, the air thickened with the fervent prayers of the faithful. The people listened intently, seized by awe and reverence. "For the Lord," she continued, "is not only the God of our salvation, but he is the God who calls us to stand firm in a broken world, to shine forth his hope in the midst of despair. We are his chosen people, and even now, he prepares a way for us to declare his glory." Amidst the gathering, cheers erupted, but Esther sensed the heaviness of hearts still covertly yearning for revenge against those who had long opposed their kind. Mordecai, wise and watchful, stood beside her, casting deep glances towards certain factions lurking at the edges of the assembly, the lingering spirits of resentment that were yet unhealed. "Mordecai," Esther whispered, her brow furrowing with concern. "What of those who still carry bitterness in their hearts and seek to avenge rather than forgive? How shall we guide them toward reconciliation?" Mordecai, with his years of wisdom, answered her gently, "We must remind them that vengeance belongs to the Lord. It is his hand that holds justice, and in our response to him, we reflect his mercy. Let us not sow seeds of bitterness where there is opportunity for healing." As Esther considered his words, a sense of divine resolve came over her. It was true, they had been given an extraordinary gift, a chance not merely for survival, but for transformation. "Let us establish a festival of Purim," she proclaimed, her gaze sweeping over the gathered throng. "A day not only of remembrance but also of rejoicing for the unity of our people, a time to share in feasting and joy, to remind us of the richness of his grace." The crowd erupted with enthusiasm, the name of the festival echoing through the streets, and thus it was decreed. A day to remember their deliverance, a day filled with feasting and merriment, a day to teach their children of the Lord's deeds and to instill within the next generation the indomitable legacy of their faith. Yet, as the people began to prepare their hearts for celebration, Esther felt a stirring in the depths of her spirit. A vision flickered in her mind of nations beyond Judah, of lands yet to know the saving grace of the God who had delivered her people from despair. "O Lord," she prayed, "what more lies within your plans? Who are these distant nations?" In that moment, a whisper of hope graced her heart. "Behold," it seemed to say, "for I shall make you a vessel of my covenant, and through you, even the farthest lands shall tremble with the knowledge of my salvation." Days flowed into weeks as the festival approached, the mood in Susa lightening with expectancy, but Esther retained a burden, a prophetic longing for the unfolding of a greater purpose. Who could fathom that the God who had spared them might have designs not only for Judah but for every corner of the earth? What revelation would come to pass through their deliverance? Little did they know, the hand of the Sovereign One was already at work, weaving his plans with threads of hope, setting the stage for a revelation that would extend beyond their lives, shining brightly into the ages yet to come. For truly, as Esther stood amid the people, emboldened and resolute, the greatest chapters of their story were still unwritten, filled with the promise of a world transformed by the light of the Almighty. And so the echoes of prophecy stirred, for in the very shadows of their joy, God's sovereign plan awaited its glorious unveiling. As the festival of Purim drew near, the atmosphere of Susa was thick with a spiritual anticipation that enveloped the hearts of the people. The joy of their deliverance mingled with an unspoken urgency, a yearning that transcended the celebrations of the day. Esther moved among the crowd, absorbing the laughter of children and the earnestness of older ones who recounted tales of deliverance, each story a thread in the tapestry of their shared heritage, yet, amid the gaiety, shadows lingered. Esther's mind was a tempest, wrestling with the implications of her calling. What lies ahead, Lord? She prayed, her heart yearning to comprehend the weight of her destiny. How shall your people prepare for what you have ordained? That night, as the moon rose high and cast a silver glow over the city, Esther sought the quiet solitude of her chambers. The flickering of oil lamps cast dancing shadows on the wall, mirroring her inner turmoil. She stripped away the adornments of her regal life and laid herself bare before the Lord, seeking His presence. In her fervent prayer, she remembered the prophecy spoken long ago, that a remnant would return to the land, that a people would rise to proclaim His name among the nations. She pondered the words of the prophet Isaiah, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you." Isaiah 60 verse 1. As her thoughts spiraled, a vision enveloped her, a vast expanse that stretched beyond her sight, realms yet uncharted. Nations poised on the brink of revelation, waiting to hear the truth of the Almighty. But with that vision came a solemn weight, a calling that demanded more than remembrance, it beckoned for action. "What shall I do, O God?" she cried out. "Declare your glory among the nations. Show me the path." It was then that a gentle yet firm voice pierced her contemplation. "Rise, Esther. Your courage will be the beacon that draws others to me." And with that, a rush of the Spirit filled her soul, emboldening her with purpose, revealing the calling etched upon her heart. The dawn broke with a new clarity. Esther summoned Mordecai, her confidant and protector. "Mordecai, we must prepare our people, not merely for a day of feasting but for a mission of reconciliation. This festival shall serve not only as a reminder of our deliverance, but as a declaration of hope to the nations." Mordecai, his brows knitted in thought, replied, "You speak wisely. We must craft messages of peace and unity. Let the children, the elders, all join in the spreading of His truth, and let this festival echo beyond Susa. The world needs to know our God." As plans unfurled like the petals of a blooming flower, the people of Judah united in fervor. They crafted scrolls inscribed with His acts of mercy and mighty works, they prepared baskets filled with gifts for those they had once looked upon with disdain. Tensions eased, replaced by a spirit of collaboration, yet, in the shadows, a figure watched the remnants of the adversaries who had conspired against them. They found strength in their bitterness, plotting to thwart the unfolding purpose given to Esther and her people. "Let us rise against them," they whispered amongst themselves, unaware of the divine shield encircling God's chosen. As the day of celebration approached, a palpable sense of divine purpose enveloped Susa, even as whispers of darkness sought to undermine their resolve. But Esther stood firm, buoyed by the words of her vision, "Through you, even the farthest lands shall tremble with the knowledge of my salvation." Thus, Susa prepared not only for a festival but for a transformation, a testament to the living God, whose sovereign plan was unfolding majestically before them, connecting heavens and earth in ways they could scarcely understand. What awaited them beyond the festivities was a revelation that promised to echo through eternity, a truth waiting to be unveiled in the tapestry of God's grand design. As the dawn of the festival broke over Susa, the city awoke in a symphony of sound and color. Every street corner resonated with laughter, and families adorned themselves in vibrant garments as they gathered in anticipation of the celebration. Yet, even amid the joyful clamor, a solemn heaviness shadowed Esther's heart. The night's vision replayed in her mind like a divine echo, urging her to prepare for what was yet to come. "Today is a day of remembrance," she said to the throng, her voice firm yet tender as she stood atop a low stone platform. The crowd hushed, their attention drawn to their queen. "We remember how the Lord delivered us from the hand of our enemies, how He turned our mourning into joy. But I implore you, dear people, let this not simply be a day of feasting, let it be a day of faith." Mordecai stood nearby, witnessing the impact of her words. The murmurs of agreement rose like a wave through the assembled multitude. "Indeed, Queen Esther," cried a voice from the crowd. Let us not forget the lessons of our past. Let us honor the God who saved us. Esther's heart soared as hope ignited in the hearts of her people. Let us unite to proclaim his wondrous deeds, she continued. We shall not only celebrate our own deliverance but extend our hands in reconciliation to those who stand at a distance from our God. Her call for unity resonated deeply, as individuals rushed forth with handwritten scrolls and baskets filled with gifts, each a testament to the goodness of God. Families gathered in groups, sharing their stories of hardship and redemption with one another, forming a tapestry of testimonies designed to spread the glory of their deliverer. Yet hidden in the folds of this fervent resolve was an undercurrent of wickedness. The adversaries, emboldened in their anger and plotting to extinguish this light of hope, convened in a darkened chamber. "This Esther is a thorn in our sides," one of them sneered. "Her words rally their hearts, but we can snuff out their joy. We must act swiftly and decisively." While their schemes unfurled in the shadows, Esther continued to inspire the people. She taught them the meaning of one of their ancient proverbs, "The righteous are bold as a lion," Proverbs 28 verse 1. The people nodded in understanding, feeling the emboldening of the spirit within them. Then a young boy stepped forward, gifted in playing the harp, and began to sing sweet melodies that glorified the Lord and recounted his mighty acts. The crowd joined him, their voices rising to the heavens in a chorus of gratitude and praise. With each note, a barrier seemed to fall, a divine protection wrapping Susa more tightly in God's embrace. As evening approached and the sun began to set, reminiscent of the glory that had shone over the Israelites in the wilderness, something stirred in the depths of Esther's spirit. She felt the weight of her calling intensify, like a drumbeat signaling divine intervention. She turned to Mordecai once more, urgency written across her brow. What if this day is but the beginning? What if the Lord's deliverance is not merely for us but for the nations who dwell in darkness? The sky darkened slowly, a contrast to the spirit of celebration that filled the city, yet the light of hope flickered emboldened, that flicker transformed into radiant illumination. It radiated from Esther, a sign that God's plans were unfurling beyond what they could fathom. Thus, the day of Purim became a powerful catalyst, a threshold upon which Esther stood, poised between two realms, the past of their deliverance and the future of a promise. For even now, she declared, eyes bright with conviction, the intentions of our God are being woven together, and his sovereign will shall prevail. Yet echoing in the shadows, the adversaries did not relent. Their plotting deepened, a dark cloud poised to halt the momentum of God's work. As the festival reached its apex, tensions heightened, foreshadowing a divine confrontation that would reveal the true nature of God's plan for Esther, her people, and even the nations. What mysterious move God would unveil next in this unfolding drama remained yet to be seen, as the hearts of men clashed against the steadfastness of his redemptive purpose. As the night enveloped Susa, the moon cast a soft glow upon the joyful celebration. The streets were filled with the echoes of laughter, yet Esther felt an unsettling stirring within her, a whisper of urgency that beckoned her to a deeper understanding of the moment. The delightful melodies of the harp still lingered, but a different sound began to emerge from the shadows, a rumbling discontent, the whispered schemes of the adversaries who sought the ruin of her people. In the privacy of her chamber, Esther bent low in prayer, her heart laid bare before the Almighty. "O Lord," she cried, "you have called me for such a time as this, yet I tremble at the weight of my purpose. Reveal to me the steps I must take, for I stand between my people and the storm that threatens their very existence." Her spirit grew quiet, and in that stillness, she recalled the words of her late father, who had taught her of God's sovereignty in all matters. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding," Proverbs 3 verse 5, he would say, reminding her that even in tumultuous times, God's hand is ever guiding. Meanwhile, in the darkened council of the adversaries, Haman's wrath boiled over. This festival is but a cover for their insurrection. Let us not linger in idle schemes. I will go before the king and devise a plan to rid ourselves of this queen and her people once and for all. The others nodded, their hearts darkened with ambition as they contemplated the possibilities of revenge and power. As Haman sought the favors of King Ahasuerus, Esther emerged from her place of supplication, courage framed in her eyes. It was time to act, to reveal to her people the full extent of the danger they faced. Clad in royal robes, she ascended the steps of the great palace, her heart racing with a mix of dread and determination. "Gather the people and fast for 3 days," Esther commanded Mordecai, her voice steady. "Do not eat or drink, but seek the Lord's favor. The fate of our world hangs in balance, and God's plan for deliverance must unfold through faith and obedience." Mordecai's heart swelled with pride at her boldness. "So shall it be," he answered, rallying the people, for they understood the call to prayer and fasting. Their collective supplication rose like incense before the throne of heaven, filling the land with a potent plea for divine intervention. In the spaces between prayer and pledge, Esther found herself drawn deeper into the mystery of God's will, trusting that he was orchestrating an outcome beyond her dreams. What if this darkness is but a canvas for his glory? She pondered, her spirit wrestling with the weight of her destiny. As evening cloaked Susa in its velvet darkness, Esther entered the king's court, the chill of anticipation wrapping around her like a shroud. The king, seated high upon his throne, lifted his gaze to her presence, and in that moment, the path of her people hung by a thread frail yet thrumming with potency. "Esther, queen, what is your request?" "It shall be granted to you, even to the half of my kingdom," he proclaimed, and with every eye in the court upon her, she sensed the weight of the moment swell. As she prepared to unveil Haman's treachery, a voice echoed in her heart, "Remember, my daughter, my plans shall never be thwarted. For I am the God who sees, and in this very hour, I am weaving a deliverance that shall astound the nations." And thus, the silent conflict between the forces of good and evil lay poised to unfold, as Esther prepared to confront the darkness threatening her people. Yet she could not know the depths of God's purpose that neither she nor her adversaries had yet discerned. Leaving all of Susa at the edge of a pivotal revelation, what would God reveal in this moment of divine intersection? What unfolding purpose awaited in the heart of Esther's courageous stand? The story was far from over, and in faith, she leaned into the hands of the Almighty, for his sovereign plan was about to be unveiled. In the aftermath of Esther's bold revelation, the air in the palace thickened with tension and anticipation. The king's eyes narrowed upon Haman, the deceiver laid bare, and wrath ignited in his heart like a flame, consuming all doubt. "Who would dare to threaten my queen, to seek to destroy her people?" he bellowed. Haman trembled under the weight of the sovereign's rage, knowing his dark ambitions had been exposed. In that moment of divine justice, the king commanded, "Hang Haman upon the gallows he prepared for Mordecai." Esther 7 verse 10, ESV. The swift deliverance of the Lord enveloped Esther and her kin, the echo of justice ringing loudly through the halls, a clarion call that reached every corner of the kingdom. As Haman's final breaths escaped him, the fear that had once gripped the Jews began to dissipate. Esther stood resolute, her faith a beacon amid the storm, as she turned to the king, her heart filled with boldness. "Let an edict be written to spare my people, for another decree still lingers, signed into history. We must not only counteract the wrath but also proclaim the victory of our God." King Ahasuerus, his fury now tempered with clarity, responded with a softened heart. "You have my signet ring, let it be so," he answered her, eyes reflecting the gravity of their momentous exchange. Mordecai was called before the king, adorned with the royal robe and crown, a testament to the providence that had led him from the gallows to a place of honor. "Do not fear, for I will write in your name, and the life of the Jewish people shall be secured this day," he proclaimed, his heart racing with victorious gratitude. United, Esther and Mordecai crafted a decree that would reverberate through the generations, a proclamation of protection for the Jews, a new resolve against their foes. They called upon the people to rise up, not merely in vengeance but in the joyful recognition of their deliverance. "Stand firm and let none falter, for our God fights for us." They rallied. As the sun set on that fateful day, news of the counter-decree spread like wildfire. Fear gripped the hearts of their enemies, as they trembled before the revelation of divine strength and favor resting upon the Jews. In every province and city, the people of Judah prepared to defend themselves with courage anew, their spirits emboldened by the hope that had reigned supreme. And so, on the 13th day of Adar, amidst the clamor of battle, the Jewish people rose not simply to survive, but to reclaim their narrative as a people chosen by God. The clash of swords rang harmoniously, a symphony of justice being rendered. Each strike served as a reminder that they were no longer bound by despair but were free to declare the goodness of the Lord who had shielded them. On the 14th day, as the sun dawned bright, the Jews celebrated their victory. This was a day that would be etched into history as the Feast of Purim, filled with feasting and joy, a time for remembrance and testimony passed down through the ages. Mordecai, now held in high esteem, encouraged all to share the tale, that future generations might know the truth of the God who hears and answers prayers. It was a legacy of faith in action, of standing boldly and boldly declaring that they were marked by God and called to be a light unto the nations. Words of hope and unity echoed through the land, as families gathered to recount the wondrous acts of their God, ensuring that the victory would resonate in the hearts of children yet unborn. Esther, beloved by her people, pondered upon the deeper meaning of their deliverance. Theirs was not merely a victory over mortal foes, but a divine declaration of identity and purpose. For we are meant to be a people who reflect His greatness, who share not only our worship but also our testimonies to those who dwell in darkness. She declared, her heart stirring with divine purpose. As the festival continued, Esther knelt in quiet reverence, her heart ablaze with gratitude. O Lord, she prayed, may we forever be a vessel of your love, may our story ripple beyond these borders and into the hearts of nations yearning for hope, for she knew their deliverance was a glimpse of the greater redemption that was fully awaiting in divine providence. And so, Esther's story, woven into the very fabric of faith, became a testament of God's unfailing love and covenant promise. Generations arose and fell, but the legacy of the Feast of Purim endured forever, marked as a day to remember the faithfulness of Yahweh, the God who saves. Know this, beloved reader, God's providence remains true throughout the ages, promising redemption, unity, and hope to all who believe. If this profound journey resonates within your spirit, do not hesitate. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and to witness more powerful biblical stories. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, ensuring these stories reach more souls in need of His truth. Comment below your spiritual reflections. How has this biblical story impacted your faith? And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony. Embrace the mission to carry the light of hope to the world.